Come to the dome. Yes, Saturday. Red River Showdown at last. The Sooners and the Longhorns, for the first time in 6 seasons, both teams are going to enter this game ranked in the top 25. Not just one, but both teams. Yes, so many Big 12 implications on the line, of course, for the Sooners, trying to maintain that dream of getting back to the college football playoff. It's going to be pretty damn difficult to do that if they lose Saturday in Dallas at the Cotton Bowl. Of course, 11 a.m. kickoff, and the game can be seen on Fox. The point spread really hasn't wavered much. 7.5 points the Sooners are favored. In fact, Sooners have been favored to win the Red River Showdown every year this decade. Of course, Texas leads the all-time rivalry, but if you look at contemporary times, this game has belonged to the Crimson and Cream. This century alone, yes, Oklahoma has dominated, winning 12 of the 18 matchups since 2000, and in this decade, even more impressive, winning 6 of the 8 games, including the last 2. However, in these last few seasons, victory has not come easy at all for OU. As a matter of fact, if you look at the last 4 games, the winning margin, 7 points or less. If I were in Vegas this weekend, and if I see this game on the board, I do not touch it. Okay, it's a rivalry game. Anything can happen. I do not bet this game. I don't take Texas. I don't take Oklahoma. And I don't take the total points over or under. I don't touch this game with a 20-foot pole. Forget it. Rivalry games, like I said, anything can happen. Anything's possible. And, you know, the Texas Longhorns these past few years, you know, they have not had what you would call juggernaut teams. Not very talented teams. And of course, Charlie Strong never had a winning record in his 3 years with UT. Yet Texas, these last few seasons, has battled. The last 5 games, Texas has been underdogs in all of them, and they've won 2 of them. And in the other 3 games, OU was fortunate to get out with the win. So what I'm trying to tell you is that a rivalry game, yeah, you got to watch out. And this Texas team is the most talented squad they've had in quite a while. After losing the opener to Maryland, they've reeled off 4 straight wins, thanks, I think, in most part, to a very good defense led by defensive coordinator Todd Orlando and a steady improving quarterback, Sam Ehlinger, whose teammates beat up him. You know what I think is going to be maybe the biggest key to who wins this game? All you got to do is look at the blueprint, if you will, from the last 11 OU Texas games. The team who wins the rushing battle. It's so easy to look at the quarterbacks, and there'll be a key. Don't get me wrong. I mean, Kyler Murray putting up unreal stats, and by the way, accounting for 21 touchdowns and only 2 interceptions, and Sam Ehlinger proving that, you know, he can win games with his arm, but his scrambling ability has been incredible. And like Murray, does a great job of improvisation, the word improv, and that strikes big with both quarterbacks. Ehlinger has only thrown for 2 interceptions this year as well. It all comes down to the running game. Of the last 11 Red River Showdowns, the last 11 games between OU and Texas, the team who has won the rushing battle in this game has won 10 of those 11 games. The only exception was 2014 when Oklahoma lost the rushing battle but still eked out a win. That's how big rushing total is in this game. Let's start with Oklahoma. This offense, which has put terrific numbers, you know, both total yardage and points on the board, leading to a 5-0 record. This will be the best defense that they have faced so far this season, and probably the best defense that they will face throughout the entire regular season. Texas is that good, and the Longhorns, after a shaky season opener against Maryland, in which they gave up over 400 total yards and gave up over 30 points, they have responded big time, of course, with wins over USC, beating T.C.U, and just recently winning for the first time in a long time at Kansas State, despite the fact that that second half was probably a little more anxious and a little more nail-biting than Longhorn fans would have liked, but they still got out with a 5-point win. Texas primarily will feature 6 defensive backs. That's right, a dime package. So I think the big thing for the Sooners in this game, you know, we can look at Kyler Murray and say, yeah, he's the biggest key. I think it's Trey Sermon. I think, honestly, it's Trey Sermon. And, you know, after we saw Oklahoma run successfully at the beginning of the year, the last few games, well, it could be better. The Oklahoma offensive line hasn't exactly been getting the job done as far as rush offense. And I know Rodney Anderson being out, you know, is a stinker. I know that hurts in so many ways. Bottom line, though, it doesn't have anything to do with how Oklahoma blocks, okay? I think the magic number for Oklahoma rushing yards-wise in this game, the Sooners need to get at least 140 rushing yards. If you could do that, you force Texas to make some adjustments. Yeah, Malcolm Roach, the fine Texas linebacker, got hurt against USC. We still will not see him because of the broken foot. But Gary Johnson, he can play linebacker. Kris Byrd is one of the many talented defensive backs that Texas will feature. If you can get success running the ball, you make Texas make changes in that situation. Maybe get out of that 6 defensive back alignment. And if you could do that, then Kyler Murray and the Oklahoma offense can be balanced. Yes, successful passing, but also, too, with that ground game as well. Otherwise, if it turns out to be one of those difficult games for Oklahoma to run the ball, it's going to be difficult for Kyler Murray because he will have to deal with more defensive backs than he will have seen all year long, and that could lead to problematic situations. The great thing, though, about the Sooner quarterback in Murray, it's not just the fact that, yes, he's got the big passing numbers. Yes, he contributes for touchdowns like he did last week, accounting for 7 of the 9 scores in the one over Baylor. But his decision-making, especially at the last second, has been invaluable. It's been amazing. It has been Heisman-like. So his decision-making, I think, is the biggest thing that gets overlooked. We look at Kyler Murray and think, oh, yeah, great arm. Yes, fantastic talent. But right here is where Murray has been the most dangerous against defenses, has been mentally. And that will have to be the case this week. So, like I said, at least 140 total rushing yards is what Oklahoma will need in order to feel good about their chances of getting out of the Cotton Bowl with the win. Now, let's take a look, if you will, at the Oklahoma defense. And, of course, you've heard complaints about that big time. And, after these past couple of games, rightfully so. Now, I know Texas does not feature a terrific rushing attack. In fact, they have not had a 100-yard rusher in a game this year. In fact, they haven't even been close. But the thing you have to take into account for is that, Sam Ehlinger can run the ball. And we found that out last year. Remember when you had the 20-point lead, things were looking great, and then Texas got back into the game and eventually got the lead before OU came from behind. Well, in that second half when Texas was making that charge, Ehlinger was a big part of it with his arm, but mostly with his grit and determination by running the ball. He gives that added dimension, and that definitely loosens the defense up. So we'll see how this Oklahoma front seven reacts to Ehlinger. The big key to me defensively is disrupting Ehlinger as much as possible. Blitzing, putting pressure on him, making Ehlinger try to do things that maybe he's not accustomed to doing. And how will the secondary of OU match up? We talk about the corners, Trey Norwood, now Trey Brown, of course, Motley on the other side, and the secondary with Bookie as well as with Hogden. And, of course, you got Robert Barnes back as well. How will they do against those very talented, athletic Texas receivers? I know they haven't put up just godly numbers, but they have the capability of having a big-time game. We're talking about, of course, Colin Johnson and Little Jordan Humphrey. Those guys are dangerous, and the Sooner secondary has to be on high alert. But I think, like I said, the biggest key is being able to make Sam Ehlinger as uncomfortable as possible. Texas has not shown that they're that explosive offense, but you just never know with a Tom Herman-type coach team what they will bring to the table in Dallas. Special teams, I think this is a wash. I think both special teams are amazing. Oklahoma, we've already seen this season proofs in the pudding. A block punt return for a touchdown. We've also seen them almost return a punt for a score and a kickoff for a touchdown. Special teams is a big weapon. And for Texas, it's been the same thing. We saw against USC. The Longhorns, block a field goal and make big things happen after. And then last week against Kansas State, one of the keys of their win, that early punt return for a touchdown in that 19-0 first half for Texas. Of course, they had to make every point hold up because K-State made a little bit of a comeback, but Texas held on for the 5-point win. So special teams, yeah, I think both teams can feel good about it. Maybe the one element that I have an issue with Oklahoma, if it does come down to a game-winning kick, can you trust Austin Seibert? Of course, you could not against Army by missing a very makeable field goal. Maybe he takes a tone for it and corrects that if it comes down to that. Hopefully it won't, but that's something to keep in mind as well. Final thoughts on this game. Like I said, I don't touch this game if I'm in Vegas. The point spread's 7.5. It's a rivalry game. You just never know. So I would recommend that if you are contemplating making a bet, don't on this particular game. Save your bet for another Texas or Oklahoma game. Do I think it'll be competitive? Absolutely, because Texas, with less talented Longhorn teams, have been competitive against OU in the past, and I think with this being the most talented team in quite a while, they'll be competitive as well. But to me, it comes down to one big thing. Besides Oklahoma being able to run the ball effectively, it'll come down to big plays as well. And I think the Sooners have more of that ability than Texas. So I think Kyler Murray and the Sooners, I think the dream season continues at least for another week. I look for Oklahoma to win. I'm going to go 31-24. I have OU winning, but barely, not covering that spread. But don't be surprised again if that Vegas point spread changes. It was a 7.5 to start, then went to 8. Now it's back to 7.5. Just a reminder, my 3 picks coming up later this week on this very web page, so make sure to come back. And I should have my OU Texas postgame show after the game, so don't miss that as well. It's going to be a lot of fun from Dallas, and hopefully it'll be another Sooner victory. But you have a feeling Texas is going to make them earn it once again. Boomer Sooner.